Now, if you can't hear me or can't understand my Irish accent, put up your hand and I'll stop. And we go back over that. Please feel free to do that. And Father Gobbi is an Italian priest, born in 1930. He belonged to an order called the Compagnia di San Paolo in Milan, and part of their job was taking people on pilgrimages. Now, he was in Fatima on May 8, 1972. That's 52 years ago now. And he claims he was praying at the statue of Our Lady, you know the statue of Our Lady of Fatima, which is right there at the Covid area, that Mary spoke to him. He understood from Mary there is a crisis among priests in the world. Goodness, he hadn't hit the newspapers at that stage. And she wanted to help the priests. And she wanted 3 things from the priests. Number 1, accept me as your mother. Accept Mary as their mother. Consecration to Mary. Number 2, love for and union with the Pope. We don't often become Protestants. Protestants are those who don't accept the Pope. Make up their own church. Jesus said to Peter, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church," he said. Mere my church. And then the third thing I understood that Our Lady wanted from the priest was to bring people back to a devotion to Our Lady. Most of us oldies grew up with this. The youngest now don't know what it is. They say, what is it? I remember in Japan, staying in a hostel, a young man had a cross around his neck. And I said to him, "Are you a Christian?" He said, "No, why?" I said, "Well, they said it's an accessory," he said. So this has become an accessory to people now. Put it around their heads and it's an accessory. But anyway, we have to deal with that. Father Gobbi was wondering if this was really from Our Lady, was it his imagination, or could it even be from the devil? And when he went back to Italy, he took the train from Milan down to Rome to see the bishop in charge of the Bishops' Conference in Italy. He decided he'd be a good person to ask. And he explained, "Father Bishop, this is what happened to me. What shall I do?" And the bishop said to him, "Well, Father Gobbi," he said, "today there are a lot of movements against the Pope. I'm very happy to hear one that's for the Pope. Give it a go and see what happens." He still wasn't sure. And he asked Our Lady for another sign that could not be mistaken. And she gave it to him. I have a footnote here, and you can ignore this if you want to, but somebody told me, and I don't know if this is true or not, that the test he gave Our Lady, he said, "If this is really from you," he said, "I want to hear the Angelus bells be rung in Nazareth on the," what did he say? He gave us some feast day anyway. Glory be to God. He was leading a pilgrimage and he was on Nazareth that very day and he heard the Angelus bells being rung. He knew that, he knew it was Our Lady then. No, Father Gobbi, I never heard that from Father Gobbi. But somebody else told me that. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I know that he gave Our Lady another test. And she fulfilled that test. And then he settled on, maybe this is really Our Lady. And he got 3 priests together to say the rosary and consecrate themselves to Our Lady. And that's how the married movement started back in 1972 and 73. Now, from 73 until 97, Our Lady spoke to him in his heart. Technically, in the church, this is called a locution. Many saints have received locutions from God, the Father, from Jesus, from Mary, from an angel. It's not unknown. Many people get the locutions, I think. He had a copybook, like a child's copybook. He would write them down. He thought he knew they were coming on. He'd write them down and just put them aside. And this is finished on hurry. And he became a spiritual director. Anyone who thinks they're in contact with Our Lady or with God has to have a spiritual director. And after a year or two, the spiritual director picked some of these messages and said, Father, you should print these now, they'll help the priests. So after a few years, he published the first few messages in Italian, of course. Well, soon it went all over the world, translated into all sorts of languages, and then Father Gobbi started getting invitations to go all over the world. These messages continued until 97, when they finished. And now this part of the Mary movement is not a private revelation. Consecration of Mary is part of the church's Paul's motto was, I am all yours, my queen and my mother. Totus tuus. Consecration of Mary. Love for the Pope is essential for Catholics. We become Protestants and we don't love the Pope. Or Orthodox, whatever. And Mary, of course. But these messages are by way of private revelation. And the church is always nervous about private revelations. Even Fatima and Lourdes, the church is nervous about them, certainly at the beginning. They test them carefully. When I first met Father Gobbi in 1985, I was teaching in Sydney. I was asked to translate for him. I went all over Australia. At that stage, the Vatican said to him, Father Gobbi, stop printing the Blue Book. Give it to your bishop. And his bishop was Cardinal Carlo Maria Martini, a Jesuit, who was the Archbishop of Milan, a great scripture scholar. Once upon a time, he was my teacher. During a time in my life, I ever did a course in Latin. Martini spoke Latin in that course. He gave handouts as well. At least we could follow the handouts. But a great scripture scholar. And after a few months, so when Father Gobbi was with me, he had handed in the book to Cardinal Martini and wasn't sure what would happen. But he was ready to obey the Pope, whatever came. Sacrifice the book if necessary, that's what the Pope wanted. After a few months, Martini gave him back the book and said to him, Father Gobbi, you can publish the book again now, he said, but you must write an introduction explaining what a locution is and how the Mary movement fits into the church. It's not everything, but it is something. And so from then on, he's given me permission to publish the book. And it's a story I suppose that helped me. Another part of my life, I was in Minnesota. I refer to it as Minnesota. We had snow from October to May. And after Mass one day, an elderly gentleman came up and said, Father, I'm a priest. I went into crisis. I got a dispensation. I was dispensed from my vows. And so I married a lady with 2 sons. Now, my wife had died, he said. But he said, I found this Blue Book, and now I have a great thirst back for my priesthood from reading the book. And he said, I've gone to the Archbishop Roach in Minneapolis at that stage, and he said, but he won't let me back. So I said, well, Father, keep praying, for Lady wants you back and get back. The next time I was back in Minneapolis, he was on the altar called celebrating with me. And I said, what happened? He said, March the 8th, May the 13th, the Archbishop gave me permission to resume my priesthood. Now I said to him, I said, Father, priests have great difficulty with this book. They say, Our Lady didn't say very much in the scriptures. How come she says so much? And not a lot of this. So, well, he said, I checked the imprimatur. The imprimatur here is the Bishop of Stockton and the Archbishop of Pescara in Italy. And he said the imprimatur was James J. Byrne, Archbishop of Dubuque. Now he said, Jimmy Byrne was our dogma professor when I was in the St. Paul Seminary. And I knew that if anything got past Jimmy Byrne, it was all right. So he relaxed. The book was dogmatically correct, and he was able to accept the book. Now that's just by way of introduction to the Marian Women's Priest. The Marian Women's Priest has gone all over the world, from Alaska to Invercargill. I won't tell you the story about Invercargill right now, but it'll be at the fraternity. And so here we are today in Auckland. This is my first visit to Auckland was in 1993 with Father Gobby. We came from Fiji. He was a week in Fiji. We came to Auckland. We had our first cenacle at the Cathedral of St. Patrick and St. Joseph. Father Fitzpatrick was here then. Do you remember Father Fitzpatrick? You will remember. Huh?
He was at theirs.
He was a marvelous 2 years. He was here at that stage. All right, that's by way of introduction. Now,